Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I would be talking about some of the most horrifying and bizarre surgical practices that were common throughout the history. Stay with me and we would be exploring a world when leeches, bloodletting, trepanation were considered legitimate remedies. Number 4. Waterboarding. In fact, long before the UN even existed, there was a wet form of shock therapy for mental health disorders. Hospitals would use hydrotherapy or the water cure throughout the 1800s and early 1900s. The simplest version was that the hospital personnel would just hold the patient's head under the water until they lost consciousness, after which they would be considered cured of their madness. The poor patient was literally unconscious. Obviously, they were cured of everything because they couldn't say a thing. Other forms of this treatment would be dunking or showering reclining patients without warning them. It was not proven how nearly drowning or even completely drowning, yes, some of the poor patients would drown just to get cured. So it isn't clear how it was supposed to be helping, but back in the day, it was all the rage among the anti-insanity sect. First off, I'm glad neither of us lived in that era. It would just be horrifying.
Thank you, God!
Number 3, we have bloodletting. Bloodletting was the name given to the removal of blood for medical treatment. It was believed to rid the body of impure fluids to cure a host of conditions. Yeah. You just let the blood go and everything would be fixed. Originally, bloodletting involved cutting a vein, typically at the elbow or knee, to remove the affected blood. Over time, specialized instruments and techniques, including the use of leeches, were developed to make more precise cuts and improve control over how much blood was removed. Blood was typically drained until the patient would pass out, and the amount of blood they would take out was usually about 20 ounces, which is actually a big portion considering that person was sick and the body had to be dealing with the sickness itself, and the body had to be strong enough to be defending the bacteria and the other things that made that disease happening. Number 2, we have trepanation, skull drilling for pressure headaches. Imagine you have a bad day, a hangover, or just a bad headache, and then you decide to take an Advil. It wasn't an option back then. The idea of drilling, cutting, or scraping holes into the skull as a medical treatment likely makes you shudder in horror, right? And it would be a far scarier prospect than a Halloween trick, that's for sure. Trepanation was a medical treatment that would be used to relieve severe cranial pressure. This historic medical practice, also known as Stone Age brain surgery, is one of the earliest medical treatments, with several instances of its evidence in medical history. In fact, trepanation was used during the Stone Age, and it continued to be used in the Renaissance era. This medical treatment would be mostly carried on men, but there are some cases that it was done on women or children. Remarkably, there are evidence of people who survived this treatment, as the skull was healing after that surgery. The fact that you would either survive and would not be cured or die just makes me feel like, what was the necessity of this medical treatment? You could just not treat it, right? And then you would eventually die or just survive. Number 1, we have lobotomy as a cure for mental health again. Nice. As if they would be able to cure every other thing, and they were just so... I'm not sure why they were so obsessed with the mental health. Nowadays, mental health is thankfully subject to better treatment than ever in history, and we are lucky. For now, we're lucky. I'm not sure how it would be in future. Maybe in future people are like, can you believe these people would take pills to cure depression, or they would take pills to cure anxiety or whatever else? So I'm not sure what's going to happen in future, but I know nowadays the treatments are much more understandable and reasonable than before. I'm going to be explaining this medical procedure called lobotomy. This is going to be a little painful to imagine actually. Lobotomy was a medical treatment that was designed to sever the nerve pathway in the brain lobes, which were thought to be processing the emotions. So they were like, okay, these emotions make you sad or nervous or whatever else, so let's just cut the whole thing and just don't worry about it. You don't have to feel anything. You don't need emotions to live. The method for doing this horrific procedure was drilling holes in patient's skull and hammering through the eye socket. This procedure was used many times, and while it was never proven to help, it just happened to be continued for a long time. You know what I was thinking? I would just imagine that these surgeries would be done without anesthesia, at least for a certain era in history. I'm sure there was like nothing like anesthesia, right? So the amount of pain that the patient had to be going through, they would be just dying, or they would be just traumatized for the rest of their lives. Alright, if you like this video, please share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video of me. Thank you for later. Thank you for watching. See you later. Bye now.